And it's time for science again. We are still talking about classifying matter in this first portion of our science unit. On the next couple slides, we're going to look at some of the picture vocabulary, which we've actually gone over previously, but not everyone has had the chance to see. So let's cover those terms first. When we are talking about classifying matter, we are talking about grouping things together based on similar traits, just like in that picture. This one's pretty easy. Float. If something floats, it stays on the surface of a liquid without expending any energy. Magnetism is a fun one. Pushing or pulling force produced by a magnet. We can use that to classify matter. If something's magnetic, we can put it in a category that says this item or this matter is magnetic as opposed to something that's not. Mass is very important for us in science. It's typically measured in grams, but when we are asking about mass, we are talking about the amount of matter in something. We're not necessarily curious about the weight of that item. We just want to know how much matter is in something. Speaking of matter, what is it? Matter is anything that has mass or takes up space, so almost anything. Physical properties. Physical properties are characteristics that can be observed or measured. For example, color, melting point, and conductivity. Just like float, we also have sink. If something sinks, it drops below the surface level of a liquid. Volume is new for 4th grade. We didn't have that in 3rd grade. So, volume is the amount of space matter takes up. It's usually measured in liters, cubic centimeters, or milliliters. The next few slides have quite a bit of information on them, which I'm going to go over. Another reason why I'm pre-recording this lesson for you right now, so that while we have this lesson in science, you are able to refer back to this for your assignment later too. So, classifying matter. Do you know what air, water, and an apple all have in common? They are all examples of matter. Matter is a word we use a lot in science. It means stuff. All of the stuff in the world that has mass and takes up space is called matter. There is solid stuff like an apple. There is liquid stuff like water. There is also gas stuff like the air in a balloon. What other examples of matter can you see around you right now? Well, I'll give you some hints. The desk you're working at, your laptop, your paper, your pen, your pencil. There are a multitude of possible answers here. So, what are the properties of matter? The matter around us has many properties. Properties help us describe and compare different types of matter. Think of properties as a way of describing the things around us. Are they big or small? Hot or cold? Heavy or light? Here are some basic properties of matter. So, mass. We've already heard about that once today. An object can contain a lot of matter. For example, a brick, or it can contain very little matter. For example, an empty box. The brick has more mass than an empty box, even if they are the same size. What that means is, if I have a box that is the same size as a brick, obviously the brick is heavier, it has a greater mass, it's denser, there's a lot more matter packed in that brick than there is an empty box. What about volume? Matter can take up a lot of space. For example, the ocean, or just a little space, like a snowflake. The ocean obviously has a lot more volume than a snowflake. And temperature. Matter can be hot, for example, lava, or cold, for example, ice. Lava is obviously at a much higher temperature than ice is. So, couple things. It is important to remember that some matter is difficult to observe. For example, we sometimes forget that air is matter because it is invisible and hard to feel. Even though we can't see air, it takes up space. When we blow into a balloon, we can watch the balloon get bigger. That's evidence that we can use to show air really has mass. Another thing to remember is that not all solids are hard solids like a table or a brick. Some solids can be soft. Touch the clothes you are wearing right now. Are your clothes a solid, liquid, or gas? Well, even though something feels soft and moves around, it can still be a solid, like the shirt you're wearing. So how do we measure matter? There are many different ways to measure matter. Let's use an apple as an example of matter. The apple can be weighed on a scale, as shown in that picture on the right. We could use a ruler to measure the height and width of an apple. How can you measure how much space the apple takes up? Well, place the apple in a tub of water and watch how much the water level rises. That's kind of like our volume of an apple in a way, right? If I have a certain level of liquid in a container, if I was to submerge the apple under the water, I'd see how much the water rises, and that would tell me the volume of that apple then too. We also have a thermometer. A thermometer could be used to measure the temperature of an apple. Now, how can we compare and contrast matter? We've talked a little bit about this before. Sometimes we need to compare different types of matter, but how do we do that? We can ask a few questions to help us think about matter. What is the state of that matter? Is it a solid? Is it a liquid? Or is it a gas? Does the matter sink or does it float? What do we notice when we put the matter in water? Is the matter magnetic? So does the matter stick to a magnet? All depends on the matter you are using, of course. If you need to refer to this lesson again, it's going to be posted in Canvas. Make sure you are using all of your available information for the assignment shortly after this.